We got a bunch of other stuff to quit out of. Okay.
Okay.
So there's six of us, 6 students plus the 2 of us. Is that what you see?
That's what I see. And
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and unmute them all and let them mute and unmute themselves. If there's noise, then we can handle that.
Okay. Let's see.
Casey, we got a lot of feedback from you.
You used to watch us on cable.
Okay. Casey, can you mute yourself?
Yes, just one second.
And George, we got a little bit of feedback from you.
Oh, yeah, okay. You get any feedback from me?
Yes. Okay, and then you can just unmute yourselves when you want to talk.
Are we going to be using the hand-raising method? Richard?
Hi. Yeah, I muted George and Casey. They didn't seem to be able to get it, so
I see that.
you can use the use whatever method you want. Your show.
Okay. Great. So are we still accustomed to using the hand-raising method to be called on to? I heard you say people can unmute themselves. Should they wait to be asked to unmute themselves?
Sure. Like I said, it's up to you.
Okay. All right. And where do I? Okay. So if somebody raises their hand, I get it in the attendees panel.
Yes. Just watch the attendees panel. That's all you have to watch.
Okay. That's the only one. Okay. Great. Well, hello everybody. It's about a minute and a half before 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, so we'll just hang out for another moment or so. I see your hand, George. I'll get to you just as soon as we officially start. And Richard, are you? Oh, it's already being recorded. I see. Okay. Do I have the ability to take a poll? I see that.
No,
there are polls associated with this.
Don't worry about that. Just close that.
Well, I was curious to know, like, how many people are in their first week and second week and so forth.
No, it's too complicated. Don't worry about it. Just ask them.
Okay. Great. Well, hello, Suzanne, and hello, Ray, Patricia, Laddie, Jolanta. You're one of my advisory students.
Oh.
I don't think that's your usual speaking voice, Jolanta.
Ray, can you mute yourself?
I just did.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Juan has joined the call. I was not expecting to see him here. Welcome, Juan.
Hello, hello. Yeah, I just came in for a minute, making sure that you guys got started and everything was good.
We are ready to go. It's 6 o'clock here in California. Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Dave Berman, and I was part of the inaugural class in 2012, and I have been serving as an academic advisor since we opened up the HYP100 class to the hundreds of students that have taken an interest in the Hypnosis Practitioner Training Institute. This is my first time leading the All Things HPTI call, so just for the sake of the recording, anybody who might not be here live but listening to this over the next couple of days, this will be the last call of this kind until the new year. What is the first one we'll be doing next year? January 6th, Richard? Something like that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I had walked away.
Our regular schedule.
I had walked away.
Just confirming when we'll be resuming. just confirming when we'll be resuming in the new year. Is that Monday the
Yeah.
6th?
Yeah, the
Okay.
6th.
So just for the record, 6 p.m. Pacific time, Monday the 6th of January 2014 will be the next call like this, and we'll resume our regular schedule, 6 p.m. Pacific on Mondays and 8 a.m. Pacific on Thursdays. And so for the next 45 minutes, I'll be available to just kind of check in with everybody who's on the call, answer any questions that you have about the videos, the projects, the exam, the website, and hopefully have a little fun while we're doing it. So if you have a question that you would like to have answered, you can use the hand raise feature, and I will call on you in the order that we get hands raised. So welcome,
Real
everybody.
quick,
Thank you.
Dave, can
Yeah.
I say something real quick? Because I have Ray here. Ray, have you received the emails I sent you the last couple days?
We need to Ray's unmuted.
Yes.
Okay, make sure to get those
I
projects.
think I just got them today.
Okay, make sure to get, just take your outline and you can just copy paste it into the email and change the settings on your YouTube video, okay?
Okay, I was thinking maybe I'd send you the video via Kodak. I don't know. I'm not real techy with any of those things, but
Yeah, just
I
go to
don't
the
know.
just click on the YouTube link that you sent us, sign in, and there's a setting. Just change the setting from private to unlisted. It's real straightforward.
Okay, well that's what you said the last time, and it didn't make it. So let me. I'll get on the case.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So before we start seeing lots of hands raised, I'm curious just to make sure that everybody who is on the call has actually been able to successfully, log into the website and access the videos. Is there anybody who's not gotten past that point with HPTI so far? If so, raise your hand, please. Great. So it looks like everybody has at least been able to get started. I'd love to entertain questions about the videos, the projects, or the exam at the end of the class. Don't all jump up at once.
Hey, Dave, I don't have the same screen as you. I'm not sure who's on the call. There may be people that have been on the call several times before or some new people. So something that I've been doing is
Juan just cut out.
going over. Oh, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Juan. You're back now, yeah.
Okay. Something that I've done that can take up some of the time while people think of questions is to sort of go over some of the classes. Maybe questions will pop up about a certain class if you just go to the student learning portal, kind of show them the curriculum for next year. That seems to work, bringing questions out.
Okay, terrific.
Thanks for taking care of the call. I'm gonna head out. Everybody have a good night.
You're welcome, and thank you for being the usual class leader here. So I'm gonna take Juan's suggestion, and I assume everybody is seeing my screen because I clicked on the share screen button, and I'm on the school website right now, pulling down what I see as the student learning portal. I realize not everybody sees all the classes in the portal, but if you're looking through my screen now, you can. And if you notice, there's the internship class listed at the top. That's among the most important classes. It's a requirement in order to be able to get into the capstone class, which I'm highlighting right now. The capstone class is split 2 weeks taught by Brian David Phillips, who also teaches the critical thinking class, which is starting up in January, and another 2 weeks with Scott Sandlin, who you know, of course, from the HYP100 class. And those 4 weeks together come at the end of the program and prepare you for the capstone exam. That is the final exam of the entire program. and the questions for that exam, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we took the capstone exam, the questions for that exam came from final exams that were given in all the other courses. So it was a great way to wrap up a whole year of study and be reminded of all the great learning that we did throughout the year. The other course that is required in order to get into the capstone class, besides the internship, is law and ethics down here. Should I be going into these classes, Richard? Would that be helpful?
If you want to, Paul has a question.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, Paul, you are unmuted. Paul, what can I do for you?
I just lost something you said. You said that the capstone class was, I thought you said it was 2 weeks of Brian Dave Phillips and then Scott doing the other 2 weeks, and then something
That's
before.
right.
Or what was before? The internship?
I was referring to the internship, which is a requirement in order to get into the capstone class. Now, what we're saying by a requirement is that not all classes that are offered are required. There are some electives. The internship and the law and ethics class, as well as HYP100, are required in order to be able to take the capstone class. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and they're mapped out which is required and otherwise, right?
Yeah. Let's take a look at the recommended sequence, because it's just a recommendation.
Click right where you are on student resources, Dave. There you go. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got it. So what we're about to see here is a potential curriculum. So you're all taking the introduction to hypnosis right now. In January, there's a live weekend of training in Los Angeles. That is the Techniques and Transcendence class, and I believe Scott will be teaching that. Is anybody else going to be contributing to teaching that, Richard, or just all Scott?
No, it's just all Scott. There will be other people there. I think Teresa Van Zeller will be there. Richard Nongard will be there. John Zerbone will be there. I mean, there'll be other instructors there that may chime in, but they'll be
wonderful
working as students in the class.
Okay.
Jolanta's got a question, it looks like. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Jolanta. Jolanta, you're unmuted. Okay, well, we'll wait for Jolanta to come back around with her question. Jolanta, I think, is a he, isn't it? So back to this list of suggested sequence here. You see the law and ethics and the internship listed there. Those are the required courses that I was mentioning. What we don't have on this same page is the schedule. So in a moment I want to click over to the academic calendar and show you the schedule, but just to kind of breeze through these offerings here. Law and ethics, that's 2 weeks with Richard and Tina. Okay, I'm getting an echo off somebody. Is that Jolanta? Are you ready to ask your question, Jolanta?
We have quite a few hands popping up. Can you see the hands, Dave?
Oh, now I do. Yeah, okay. I saw Jolanta's hand first, and I see George and Casey next.
Yeah, Casey has the feedback, so I'm keeping him muted till he's ready, unless he wants to mute himself while I unmute him.
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Who is that? It's George?
George,
yeah,
yes. Hi.
Go ahead, George.
I guess the two things I'd like to know is if, as you're going down this list, maybe you can just give us a sentence about describing what would go on in the class. And the second thing was I wanted to ask some questions about the bonus videos during the HYP100 class.
Okay, so let me first go through the class. That's what I was starting to do, and I see these other hands. Just be patient, everybody. We'll definitely get to everybody. So law and ethics is 2 weeks long, and that's taught by Richard along with his wife Tina, who is a licensed clinical social worker and has a broad perspective about the ethics of not just what we do as hypnotists, but really in other therapeutic field. So part of that class is looking at how MFTs and LCSWs and psychologists have different requirements within their professions for following law and ethics. And I found that class to be very helpful in thinking about the other mental health professionals in my community that I wanted to network with, and being able to get a deeper understanding of who handles what kinds of clients. The internship, that's 6 months long. That's 1 evening per week live interaction with the other students and with Richard once again. And the internship program is really about establishing a relationship with one particular person who will serve as your supervisor, and the role of the supervisor is to help you kind of acclimate to being a professional hypnosis practitioner. So one of the things that you would do with your supervisor is debrief cases. And that's also something that happens in the internship class. Students in that class will be asked to speak about, in a confidential way, not revealing names, client cases that they're working on, and talk about maybe challenges or questions that have come up, or even reporting a success story. So the law and ethics and internship are the 2 requirements for capstone. Critical thinking is taught by Brian David Phillips. I believe that's a full 4 weeks now. It was shorter when we did it. Brian moves very fast. Brian is a professor in Taiwan and is American. He grew up here in the U.S. and has a very international perspective, and is very funny and does a great job of bringing in the nature of influence. In that course you'll read, I think it's Cialdini. I think the first name is Robert Cialdini's book called Influence, and learning how critical thinking and social influence tie together. I'm going to skip over the electives and come back to that after other people have had a chance to ask their questions. The Introduction to Psychology class, which I believe is the other option in January. Critical Thinking and Intro to Psychology are the courses that will be starting January 6th. The Intro to Psychology is a very broad overview. If you've been a university undergraduate student and taken Psych 101, that's basically what this is. History of Hypnosis is now taught by James Hazelrig. He was a student in the program that I went through in 2012, so we did not have this class. He's developed this since that time. James is a fabulous storyteller and does a great job of bringing the history of hypnosis to life. Skipping over the electives again, Research Methods. This is another class taught by Richard and Tina. It's 2 weeks. Looks a little bit at statistics and also at the methods of doing research. That is to say, how studies are constructed, what makes research study results meaningful, and where you might want to apply critical thinking to be suspect of research results. The Anatomy and Physiology class, that's also a 2-week class, also a very general, broad overview that you might get in a University 101 level class. Neurology and Psychopharmacology, that's a wonderful, intense class taught by a pair of teachers together. Katie Weens is a PhD and university instructor. Her husband, Brendan Smith, is a hypnotherapist who has an undergraduate background in biology and neurology, and the 2 of them together do a fantastic job of teaching about the brain chemistry, basically, and how hypnosis influences what goes on in our brain. So if you've heard the term neuroplasticity and you want to learn how to kind of fit that in with the rest of the curriculum that we've got at HPTI, that's the class where that's really going to bring that home for you. The practice building class, that's taught by Scott, and I can't remember if that's 2 weeks or 4 weeks. I think that's a 4-week class. The practice building class is Scott talking about how to get from being a student to being a successful professional. So it's looking at getting insurance, getting an office, making a business plan, a marketing plan, networking with other professionals, everything from soup to nuts to get you up and running as a practicing professional. And then I already mentioned the Advanced Hypnosis Theory and Capstone exam. That's 2 weeks with Brian David Phillips and 2 weeks with Scott. A lot of it reviews what we've done throughout the whole year, but Brian's portion of the class, as I recall, contained a lot of new information, particularly about deeper, I don't want to say processes so much as methods and approaches to helping people through different kinds of issues, a lot of different metaphor-based hypnotic procedures, things that you can take from the general and make into your own scripts. Of course, we don't really recommend using scripts, but that's a way to think about synthesizing what Brian offers and kind of making it your own, and then doing what you're doing in the HYP100 class. You know, if you were to take Brian's general thing and get an idea from it, make a script from it, and then turn your script back into a bullet point outline, you'd really have internalized the learning that he's offering there. So I'm gonna leave all these elective classes and come back to that later if we have time. I want to come to the people whose hands have been up. I think Jolanta's been waiting the longest. Are you ready to talk to me, Jolanta? Okay, Jolanta, every time I call on you, you're not there, so I'm skipping over you again. I'm coming to George. George, welcome. What's your question tonight?
Hi, I'd just like you to go a little bit more into the bonus videos. You know, what is there? Because you don't list them as far as topics, you know, I understand you have your reasons for doing that. But I've gone through the regular videos and I haven't gone through the bonus ones yet. I'm just wondering what's it. The couple that I have gone through, it seemed like once again going through the whole class again. So I'm just wondering if there's something in there. Are there other practitioners that are guest speakers? What are on the bonus ones?
Okay,
I'll answer that.
Totally fair question, and I gotta be honest. Yeah, I need Richard's help because I haven't seen them.
The bonus videos they're just a recording of what we went over one weekend in Techniques and Transcendence. So it's basically about inductions and intake and rapport building strategies. It's sort of it's a video presentation of all the demos you'd get in a live class.
Okay.
All right, Casey, I'm unmuting you. What is your question?
I was wondering about the internship class, if you could go into greater detail about that. Will you need to have live contact with someone? The reason I ask is there's not very many hypnotic professionals in this area.
Okay, that's a very good question. When we have a program, we need to mute you again because there's an echo, Casey. Put your hand back up if you want to follow up. When we did the program 2 years ago, the internship requirements allowed for working with other kinds of allied professionals who maybe didn't necessarily use hypnosis. So, for example, an MFT or a psychologist or even possibly a dentist, somebody who can assist you in developing your professional ethics and your way of kind of orienting to being with clients, keeping notes on sessions, things of that nature. And in the class itself, you'll get some input about, You know, if you're thinking about, okay, I've got these 3 possibilities, I want to make sure that they're all appropriate before I go knocking on their doors, you'll be able to get input on that in the class. I'm unmuting you again now, Casey. Follow up? Go ahead, Casey. Casey?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. What if you are that? I've been a professional counselor for 15 years. Do you skip that class, or how does that work?
You want to handle that question, Richard?
No, you can't skip that class, and that'll just make it easier for you. We don't give credit for life experience in any classes. We give credit if you took Psych 100 in college, which I'm sure you did if you're a professional counselor, you can skip that and get credit for it. You know, anatomy and physiology, if you took it in college, you can skip that. But we have our own internship requirement. Just like if you decided you wanted to go and now become a psychologist and went to school to be a psychologist, you'd still have to do your psychological assistant internship hours to meet the qualifications to be a psychologist, even though you'd already done an internship as something else. Or if you wanted to be a hairdresser, you would also have to meet your internship requirements for that. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself, Casey.
Casey, was part of your concern about your location being giving you limited access to appropriate supervisor candidates?
Well, I would love to have an internship in hypnosis, but I actually have supervised about 40 or 50 internships for other professionals. So the way you described it, I'm not sure that I would gain anything from that experience.
Okay. That's entirely possible. I mean, somebody with your level of experience, you know, may not need to go through this whole program. You know, the benefit to completing the program, you know, from start to finish, is to be able to get to the point where you have the knowledge and the skills and also the experience that's been supervised to start out in this field as a professional. If
Dave?
you're already, yes?
Let me address, Casey, you know, you say you work as a clinical supervisor. I mean, I have too for, you know, a very long time. I you know, think there's a lot of value in, to me, in working in group supervision settings and having collegial relationships and discussing ongoing practice. I don't know. I mean, I can only guess that you would still be able to find value in discussing, you know, discussing cases you're having and having a formalized collegial relationship.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Never know if this is muted or unmuted. Okay. Yeah, that part sounds good, and I guess it goes back to my other question. Like, this is something that's done over the internet because I don't have anybody, I can't find anybody practicing hypnosis up into about 2.5 hours drive from where I live here in South Georgia. So that's, I guess, is the main part. Do you do this live, or do you do this over the internet, or how is it handled?
Yeah, we haven't had anyone not be able to find someone. And like Dave did a great job. He, you know, he's out and like there's only about like 5,000 people within 1,000 miles of Dave.
Exaggeration, but yeah.
But well, I mean, it's not a huge exaggeration. But we'll work it out. Some of it you might be able to do it on Skype. Where, you know, we would rather you did it live, but we can it will work out.
And I got to say, it was, if not the most, then you know, among the top 3 most important pieces of the full year program. And it was so influential on my cohort that when we finished school this past January, we decided on our own to continue meeting in that format that the internship class takes. You may have heard this elsewhere or read about it, but we have a closed group, a mastermind group, that only members of our cohort are welcome to be part of, and we meet once a week, you know, on Skype or Uvu, and we just continue to support each other with case debriefings or bouncing marketing ideas off of each other. I mean, we got so much out of having those regular meetings that we felt there was enough value for us to continue investing our time in meeting that way on our own. So we do.
Well, I agree. That sounds very valuable.
Yeah. So okay, Casey, I'm gonna move on to Paul here. He's got his hand up, but feel free to put your hand back up if you got another question after that. Paul, go ahead.
I just have a quick question. You said HYP315 was Brian. I didn't get. Was that Brian David Phillips again doing the
correct? Brian. Theory? Yeah, Brian does the first 2 out of the 4 weeks of the advanced hypnosis theory. You know, he does a little bit of review in that, but it really is advanced theory. I mean, I remember feeling like a lot of this got connected for me during those 2 weeks, where things that I knew but just didn't see how they fit together really started making more sense for me in those 2 weeks. And I'm pretty sure that was the intention of Scott and Richard in designing the curriculum with that at the end.
Mm-hmm. And one other quick question, the techniques and transcendence, I was trying to look it up on, you know, where they were, and it was Chicago and Florida and Las Vegas and LA, but it seemed like there were other things in conjunction, the Hypnothoughts Convention and so on and so forth. How could I find out which one is the most bang for your buck? LA, Las Vegas would be best for me. I'm in San Francisco. So I wanted to talk to somebody that I could, you know, is there one that's connected with other things? Can I get more out of going to Las Vegas versus LA or whatever?
Well, yes. In LA, you're talking about a weekend where that course, HYP 101, will be presented and filmed. In Vegas, it's going to be a part of Hypnothoughts Live. Is that correct, Richard? The bigger hypnosis convention means if you go there for HYP 101, you've then also got the opportunity to do other hypnosis trainings with other presenters.
Yeah, it's going to be July. In July. It's going to be a pre-conference training to Hypnothoughts Live. In May, it'll be a pre-conference training to the IMDHA convention, and in October, it'll be a pre-conference training in conjunction with Mid-America's conference. But so in Los Angeles, it's standalone. But so I mean, you know, Paul, you can't go to too many of these. A lot of our graduates still come every time we have a weekend. You know, once if you graduate the program, you can come to, you know, you can come to any of our classes. You know, every time we have the weekend trainings of techniques and transcendence, we've got 5, 6, 7 alumni in attendance. They're really good because we run through a lot of practice drills that are they're really valuable. Like I say, watch the bonus reel, and you'll see a lot of the stuff that we do.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Great. Well, go ahead and throw your hand up if you got any other questions. I'm going to jump back over to the recommended course sequence and talk a little bit about these electives. So HYP205, as you see over here, that's regression and parts therapy. That's taught by the famous Roy Hunter. And is this now 3 weeks, Richard, instead of 4? What did you guys do to change
No,
the
it's
pace of
exactly
that
the
class?
same, still 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. So in fairness, regression and parts therapy have their place. Some people prefer to use them a lot more. Other people use them a lot less. They are vital to a well-rounded understanding of hypnosis. I rarely use regression myself, although I use parts, fairly often. And I've seen during parts therapy sessions, parts have spontaneous regressions. So, I might be talking to somebody about, this part of me wants to lose weight, this part of me is getting in the way, the part that's getting in the way turns out to be 5 years old. And I know how to handle that 5-year-old part because I've had this regression training. So that's a very valuable course. The pace of it is a lot slower than, say, Brian David Phillips' critical thinking class. The HYP210 class, that's contextual hypnosis. That's Richard Nongard talking about mindfulness, mindfulness-based stress reduction, acceptance and commitment therapy, and a couple of other evidence-based protocols. Another one is dialectical behavioral therapy, which is primarily used with people who have borderline personality disorder. Now, we generally say people with borderline personality disorder are outside the scope of our practice if we're hypnotherapists. But it's important to know about the techniques involved in dialectical behavioral therapy because they're life skills. That's how DBT is presented. And so you can borrow from DBT many things that will help you work with clients whose issues are within the scope of your practice. So it's not a class to learn how to handle people with borderline, for example, but it was a very valuable class. One of the books that we read in that class was called Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life by Stephen C. Hayes. Excellent book. I use quite a few of the techniques that I got from that book, and it's basically about ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy. Richard is, of course, an extremely well-known instructor and very closely associated with mindfulness, which if you've never had formal instruction in mindfulness, that's another really wonderful thing that you can expect to get from the HYP210 class. And I would even say that should not be an elective. You should absolutely take HYP210. HYP215, group demonstration, that's a course taught by William Mitchell. William does a lot of stage hypnosis. He also runs a slew of hypnosis centers where he is doing hypnotherapy, working with people for a variety of issues, a lot on weight loss and smoking cessation, and he talks a lot about the techniques. He shows some videos, in fact, of techniques that he uses to help people with those particular issues. He also teaches a fair amount about what goes into doing stage hypnosis. It's not a course to make you into a stage hypnosis. It gives you context for how stage hypnosis techniques connect with what we do in the therapeutic setting. Hypnotic phenomena, for example, are kind of a thing unto themselves. If you want to create arm catalepsy or time distortion or amnesia, those things can create humor on stage, but they also have a place and a value when doing therapeutic work. So this class is about teaching how to do those kinds of techniques and creating those kinds of effects and understanding their place in the broader scope of doing hypnosis. NLP 101, it's exactly what its name is exactly what it is. Michael Watson has been doing NLP since the very beginning in the mid-70s. He knows all the original players in that realm. He's another world-renowned teacher. He teaches in England and other parts of the world. He's just a fantastic, down-to-earth person who's great to learn from, and his scope and breadth of experience is not limited to NLP. He also teaches hypnosis, and there's a great overlap between the two. If you're not familiar with NLP at all, let me just say NLP can be thought of as the language structure of hypnosis, allowing us to do conversational hypnosis, and the more almost technical sounding definition of what NLP is, or NLP stands for, first of all, neuro-linguistic programming, and the typical definition is it's the study of the structure of subjective experience. So it's how the mind organizes memories, attitudes, beliefs, and sensory experiences, what we see and hear and feel and smell and taste. And I use a lot of NLP with my clients. I studied NLP before I started studying hypnosis formally, and I love to weave the two together. That's another course that I think everybody should plan to take. I wish people would not regard that as an elective, although you kind of have the luxury of not taking that if you've already done other NLP training, for example, or if you just don't want to. But I think that would be an error. I think every hypnotist should have some basic understanding of what NLP is and how it integrates with hypnosis. Any questions about any of those electives? Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I have taken NLP and the Master Practitioner, but it's been years ago. Would it be helpful to me to take that to get an overview, or I always think whenever there's somebody who's really skilled, I might want to see them even if it's basic 101.
That's right. Yeah. Like Richard pointed out before about HPTI alums coming to the weekend trainings, that's because you can always pick up something new. And part of the philosophy of our school is that it's important to learn from people with different styles, different orientations, different schools of thought, basically, all contained within our one school. So if you've taken NLP training with someone else, great. You'll be able to more easily understand the differences in Michael Watson's perspective on NLP. I would say the same thing if you've had stage hypnosis training from somebody other than William Mitchell. Learn from as many different people as you can. Expose yourself to people who have different points of view, and synthesize that and arrive at your own point of view. And that's really foundational to the philosophy of HPTI.
Can I add a quick thing?
Yeah.
One of the most valuable things I did, two things. One is I created a thing once a month for 2 hours doing an NLP process or hypnosis, and invited the public. And it was in my old hypnosis school or different sites. Also, I picked 3 people that I really liked their work, even though one of them was brand new. And we had practice sessions to try things we didn't want to try with clients the first time. We just get together and work for 8 hours or whatever.
Very good.
And then have dinner and debrief. And it was
that sounds very valuable. So there's one other elective that I didn't cover yet. That's HYP 305, which is probably one that should be taken later in the year because, as you can see in the list here, it's medical and dental issues. And it's taught jointly by Scott Sandlin and Michael Elner. And Michael is a very experienced hypnotherapist. He's been doing this for over 30 years. He's got incredible stories, and he's got a very unique and distinctive style. He's also very conversational. He, like Richard Nongard, is oriented towards mindfulness. And just to put in a word for mindfulness, it's about helping people connect with their resources in the present. You know, whatever happened in the past, really all that we can do is learn from it. Our solutions are here in the present. And so Michael and Richard are people who tend not to do things like regression. They prefer to stay more in the present. And this class, Medical and Dental, is filled with techniques for dealing with, you know, real health issues, medical issues, as well as dental issues. Plus, it's got some practical sort of, you know, business how-to stuff, you know, talking to doctors and talking to dentists. So that's a very valuable class that I think everybody should take, but later in the year, you know, when you've got a lot of the foundational stuff already under your belt. So we're coming up near the end of the class. There's just 3 minutes left or 2 minutes left. Any final questions for tonight? Somebody's alarm's going off there, or their phone is ringing. I'm guessing that's Paul. Okay, thank you for muting. Okay, so once again, this will be our last advisory call for this year. We will resume with our schedule Mondays, 6 p.m. Pacific time on January 6th, and then the Thursday of that week, I guess that's the 9th, Thursdays, 8 a.m., we'll resume having these calls at that time too. In the meantime, everybody should have a particular academic advisor assigned to them, so if you have questions, email them directly. Some of you may have your deadline for completing the course between now and when we resume these, so you may not need to be on the HYP100 calls anymore, but I do hope that you will enroll in further study with us in January. We've got the critical thinking and the intro to psychology classes both starting up, and you can take your pick where to start. My suggestion would be start with the psychology class. It's a little easier, frankly. And I think, you know, getting really fully integrated into the long-term commitment of doing what this school requires to graduate. You know, you were given quite a bit of grace to take the HYP100 course over 8 weeks. We did it in 5, and the psychology class and the critical thinking class would be just 4 weeks, and it's on a tight schedule. So thanks to you all for being here tonight. We're going to wrap things up, and I hope to see you in future classes at HPTI.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Good job.
Okay, Richard. Thank you. Bye-bye.